Welcome back everyone, it's Staring from Staring Gaming here. Today we're running Heroic Heart of Fear. This was one of the raids you had access to in Miss Pandaria expansion. Basically, you're fighting the Mantid and their Empress. We're gonna try to blaze a path through this as fast as possible, honestly. Our first boss here is the Imperial Advisor, Zorlok. He has two phases. His first phase is where he'll be jumping from platform to platform when he loses 20% of his total health. Now he has an inhale and an exhale ability. He'll take a large breathful to inhale his lungs full of the gas, increasing his damage for each stack and lasting until inhale triggers when he gets 3 more stacks. He'll select a random player with a KO and then scream at them, inflicting physical damage and stunning them. Now, if you stand between the boss and the selected player, the initial target suffers physical damage every half second. Now, the pheromone zeal is part of phase 1. It's when the toxic pheromone gas is inside, where you need to get to the platform as fast as possible or you'll take damage while you're inside it. While fighting him, he has abilities known as attenuation. He'll emit sonic rings that travels outward around him in a spiraling pattern. If you come in contact, you take physical damage. Now, on Heroic, these also send out a sonic pulse, which will inflict physical damage to all targets in their path. First, force and verb is when he shouts and doing physical damage to all players every second for 10 seconds. Now there are zones you can stand in that will cause you to take less damage from this ability. Now he'll summon these before he uses his force and verb attack, so you know it's coming. Now Heroic, the catch is only 7 players can be in each one of these. Now Convert, he can mind control a couple of players, and the only way to break them free is if you knock them down to 50% of health. Now stage 2 will happen when he hits 40%. He'll fly to the center, inhale all the pheromones, and gain a buff, increasing his damage and haste. Now the Song of the Empress is a deadly thing. Whenever he finishes the transition, if you do not engage him by the time he ends up finishing Song of the Empress, he will kill everyone in the raid. Now Heroic, Echoes of Power, he leaves copies of himself behind at the first 2 platforms he was on. And during this stage, they will use certain abilities. His Echoes will use the 2 abilities he had during phase 1, Intuition and Force and Verb. Now these also will use the Song of Empress, so they have to be engaged at all times until they're killed or the boss is killed. Now to pull this boss, I believe you have to kill all the ads.
The world tumbles across our doorstep, driven by fear. Her royal storm will whisk them away.
Yes, I believe so. You have to kill all the ads in this room in order to get him engageable.
They are but the waves crashing upon the mountain of her divine will. They may rise again and again, but will accomplish nothing. We are unfazed. We will stand firm. The divine challenges us to face these intruders. And so it falls to us, her chosen voice.
Let's bring this up real fast. I wanted to... Alright, that's there. Okay, I did do heroic on this. Moving my way up here, trying to see. Apparently, I ran through here with some alts, and they updated these. All right, we're actually going to be doing the Dread Approach, which is the first 3 bosses here in the Heart of Fear. So. Our first one here is the Imperial Advisor, so let's...
The Divine chose us to give mortal voice to her divine will. We are but the vessel that enacts her will.
As you can see, it leaves behind Force and Verb, which Song of the Empress will cause damage. It won't kill you, I was wrong about that, but this, the main boss, will kill you if you don't get this over. You gotta engage him in order to stop it.
We will not give in to the despair of the Dark Void. If her will for us is to perish, then it shall be so.
I guess my disease critted a little too much, but he would come here to the middle, suck up all this pheromone gas, and then you need to burn him down fast. But we're on our next way to the Blade Lord, Taya. Now, to actually engage this boss, you have to kill all the ads that are in that area, too. Now, back then, the 4 ads that run to each of their corners, you technically could attack all 4 at once, but you also end up pulling all their ads with them. So you want to fight them as a group, one by one. Nowadays, at max level, you can pull all 4 and kill all their ads together. But each one of the 4 ads have one of the abilities the boss here, the Blade Lord, will have. So let's get into them. The Tempest Slash is where he slashes the air, creating a tornado, inflicting nature damage and knock anyone away in his path. The Unseen Strike is when he fixates on a random player and then disappears. He'll reappear after 5 seconds to inflict some massive physical damage. But as long as everyone's together, the damage will be split within the cone he strikes. Wind Step, he'll teleport to a random player doing a quick strike. The blow causes physical damage to everyone within a certain distance and a bleed effect that does damage every 2 to 30 seconds. Now, Intensify, during the counter every 60 seconds, you will get a damage buff and haste buff that will stack. So you do not want this fight to last too long, because you will get this buff every minute. Now, Overwhelming Assault, he'll perform an overwhelming attack in the current attack, inflicting 150% normal melee damage. This attack leaves the target's defense exposed, which makes them take increased damage from the Overwhelming Assault for 45 seconds. Now, Heroic, he has Blade Tempest, which is more or less a Blade Storm, which does physical damage every half second. Now, when he hits 20% health, he goes to his second phase, where he'll jump to the other side of the room, causing tornadoes and knocking everyone to the other side. You need to navigate these tornadoes and engage him in order to damage him. And when he hits 10%, he'll jump to the other side, and you'll have to do the same. And now the achievement for this one is, during that second phase, you grab a torch, you need to light the unlit braziers in the boss's room, which I believe there are 4 of them. Let's see, I'm going to try to bum rush and hit one of these guys with my disease in order to pull all of them. But you'll see they all start to spread out to attack to each of their corners.
Mere initiates. One today failed their test. Will you?
And as you can see, they are all
They
running
approach.
towards me.
Good. Now, if only my students were here to see and learn from the coming display of martial prowess.
And as you can see, the Blade Lord here.
On your guard, invaders. I, Tyak, Lord of Blades, will be your opponent.
We're going to dismiss my pets so they don't kill them, so you can see the second phase. There's his one Gale Strike. Or Tempest Strike, I guess is what it's called, correct?
Can you follow my blade?
Tempest Slash. Now this is phase 2. Where you have to run to the other side. And if you get caught by the tornado, you get knocked back a bit of a distance. Just don't get into the red spot. Now, the flame you grab it from these burning braziers. You need to light the 2 on each end of the hall here in order to get the achievement.
I'd always hoped to cut someone like that someday. To hear that sound. But to have it happen to my own prothorax is ridiculous.
Now, the final boss of the Dread approach. Also, for future references, any more raid videos I put out after this one, they're going to be in their raid finder wing parts. So there's going to be multiple videos of each raid. So this is going to be a 2-part raid video. But back to that. Garrowing. It's a giant bug, more or less. The easiest way to put this down is the tanks should be the only ones in front of him, while everyone else is trying to take out his legs. And again, to get this boss fight to come and summon him, you have to kill all the ads that are here. Again. But we're gonna... For tanks, you need to be aware of the Ferocious Swipe, or the Furious Swipe, which if he fails to hit 2 players, he gets Fury, which increases his damage and movement speed by 10% for 30 seconds. And it can stack, so the tanks need to stick together. Now, if you end up going underneath him, he'll slam his body on the ground, and if you're underneath him when he does that, you take massive damage and get knocked back. Now, Heroic, he does this periodically. Pheromones, he'll surround a player with these, and every 2 seconds, they'll damage you, leaving a puddle in path. So, you need to get to the perimeter and drop those puddles. But also stay away from your other teammates, or else you'll end up passing this on, and you'll end up spreading it everywhere, and then the fight gets even more difficult. Now, his legs are his weak point. You need to attack his legs, which will cause him to take damage. And over time, he will mend his legs back up. Which will mean you have to repeat and take him out again. Now, when you break one of his legs, he loses 3% of his maximum health and loses his movement speed by 15%. And again, and if you're fast enough, you can take all 4 out. It stacks up 4 times. Now, in Heroic, he'll gain his damage debuff when he gets 33% health. Now, while he's damaged, he ignores the fixate effects of pheromones. And his melee attack, while he has this, his melee attack in that gets a dramatic street beat. He basically starts hitting fast, more or less. We're gonna kill these ads and get into it.
Pitiful wingless grubs! You step out into my domain, and I will hear your death screams as you plummet from this terrace! Civic, in formation! Show them who controls the winds of Pandaria!
Now, back then, we would pull these Zephyr guys separate. Because you didn't want, like... It's basically, you get swarmed, you're pretty much going to wipe back then.
Wrath of the Empress! Bring mighty Garalon to us!
And there he is. Now, as you see, more or less, I believe this is the... Yep, you have a bit of backside hit radius, but you don't want to go inside the purple circle or he will do his crush attack.
Garalon! Grind their bones to dust!
And he hears pheromones, and it gives me a stacking buff where I'm taking more and more damage. His fury...
Impossible! Srathik, Sarthik, Karthik, to the top of the terrace! We must defend the Empress!
And luckily, right after this boss, in the next part 2 of this raid, he is literally right up there, but his fight's unique as well. Well, this has been Asterion from Asterion Gaming, asking you to please hit that like, subscribe, and share buttons. Go also check out my Twitch channel. I'll see you guys in part 2 of The Heart of Fear.